Boom. Oh, that was much better than the last one. Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. Today is Big 12 predictions. We only got two conferences left. Let's get this one. Let's get these 10 out of the way. Take it away. Stravinsky's favorite team, the Texas Longhorns, are up first.
Yes, we are starting with Texas. Ooh, they start on at home against UL Monroe, Alabama, and UTSA, and then they go on the road to play the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Come back home to play the West Virginia Mountaineers before going back on the road to play the Oklahoma Sooners, who are the ninth-ranked team in the country. Then they go back home for a game to play against Iowa State, and then they take a 2-game road trip to Stillwater to play the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 12th ranked, and then the Kansas State Wildcats. They also then have TCU at home before taking a tough trip on the road to Kansas. Tough game, and then before ending the season at home against the 10th-ranked Baylor Bears. Over/under win total is set at 8.5. We need 9 games to go over or 8 games to be under. I will probably take the under on this one. Not that I don't like Texas. I think Quinn Ewers is good. Quinn Ewers was also officially named the starter over Hudson Card this week. Not that I don't like Texas. I think 9 wins is very doable. But I think 8 wins is probably more likely. I could see probably 3 for sure losses on the schedule. I could definitely see 1 for sure loss. They're losing to Alabama. I don't think there's anything you could tell me that would tell me they're going to beat Alabama. I don't think you could tell me they're going to beat Alabama. And then the Oklahoma's both on the road. Probably going to be tricky. I know I'm not the biggest Spencer Sanders fan in the world, but it's still on the road. And you've also got Kansas State on the road. You've got Baylor at home. So you're telling me out of their road games of Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State, out of those 4, they're only allowed to lose 2 of those. And that's not even including the home game against Baylor. I think it's very likely that they lose 3 of those games. I personally have the losses as Alabama, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and probably either Baylor or Kansas State. Take your pick. So I think 8-4 is a more likely outcome for this team. But I think 9-3 is definitely possible. So give me the under on this one.
All right, so I have it on my stat sheet. So I'm pretty sure I've actually filled out every single Big 12 team, and I have like all the scores in I predicted too. Now I did this probably like a month ago, and this is when I was like really high on Texas. I'm probably gonna stick with it because I have over, and I have 10-2 right now.
Wow.
But this Texas team, I mean, I don't completely disagree with this because with what I had however long ago, I don't remember when I put this together, but this Texas team has an incredibly good offense. I mean, between Quinn Ewers, Bijan Robinson, and Xavier Worthy, that's a lethal 1-2-3 on offense. Now, there is no stinking way they're beating Alabama. I have 52-27 Bama in that game. There is no way Texas is getting anywhere close to stopping Alabama. They'll put up some points because they have the offense, but they're not going to get anywhere near the Crimson Tide. And my other loss, I have them losing just barely to Oklahoma State. I have the Cowboys winning 31-27. I have them barely beating both Oklahoma and Baylor. They're both, well, Baylor's a home game. I don't think Baylor's an okay team, but I don't think they're necessary. They don't have the guys that they did last year. They lost some defensive players. And Oklahoma, I mean, that's a 50-50. Anybody will take it. But considering Oklahoma had a mass exodus of their program just recently, I'm going to be taking Texas in that one. So I'm gonna stick with the 10-2 because I love Quinn Ewers. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I mean, we haven't seen him play yet, but he certainly has the options to have success this year with Texas. And considering what the rest of the Big 12 looks like, I think Texas has a very likely chance of winning the Big 12 here.
Fair enough. For me, I won't won't believe in Texas until I see it. It's just I don't. I think it's just it's something with that program over the past couple of years where they've had really good teams, and they just still somehow just struggle. So I'm not believing it until I see it, especially with Oklahoma. Um, I know what Oklahoma just had a mass exodus, but Oklahoma has just owned the Red River rivalry for a couple times. I still think definitely Texas has the talent to be a really good team. With me with Texas, I'm not going to see it until I believe it. All right, who do you have listed as your next team so that I can start off our schedule?
My next team is Baylor.
Baylor. So we've got the 10th ranked Baylor Bears. They will be starting the season at home against Albany, then taking a road trip down to Provo at number 25 BYU. They're in Provo. And then you got to go home against Texas State, and then you go on the road to play the Cyclones. You do get the 12th ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys at home before going on the road to West Virginia, coming home to play Kansas before you go on the road to Texas Tech and Oklahoma. Then you get Kansas State and TCU at home before finishing the season at Texas. Vegas has their win total at, where are they? 7.5.
Wow.
Wow. I was gonna say I might have to think about this, but I'm gonna go over. I think I'm gonna pretty decent confidently go over. Like I was like, if they have like an 8.5 win total, like 9 wins, like they'll probably get 9 wins, but they might get 8. I don't see them getting 7. I don't see them getting 7 losses or only 7 wins. Like I think TCU's a much better team than they were last year because I think that team just kind of gave up on Gary Patterson, but I still don't think they're that good. I think Baylor will beat them at home. Kansas State, I think they'll beat at home. Obviously, I think they'll beat Kansas at home, and I think they'll beat Oklahoma State again at home. Oklahoma and Texas could be losses, though I think I counted Baylor as beating Texas, but those could both be losses. Maybe West Virginia. I don't think Iowa State beats them this year. Maybe BYU. I don't see 5 losses on the schedule. I see maybe 5 losses, but I don't see 5 losses and I'm like, oh yeah, this is for sure happening. I see more likely 9-3 than anything else.
Yes, for this Baylor team, I have them on my list as 10-2 as well. Their only 2 losses. I have them losing to both Oklahoma and Texas. This Baylor team, I look at the games of which they could possibly lose, and the first one that I look at is maybe on the road against BYU, as I actually have them winning that game by 1 right now. And I could also see them losing at home against Oklahoma State, but I give them the edge because it is a home game for Baylor. So once again, I do have the Bears sneaking that one out. At West Virginia is a tricky game, considering now JT Daniels is now the quarterback for West Virginia. I think he's he gets a lot of hate because at USC he never really got a chance, and at Georgia he got a very small chance and didn't play that well. So we'll see how he does at West Virginia, but he's a solid quarterback, and he certainly brings up the talent level for West Virginia. And then you got on the road at Texas. I think that's where they're going to lose at Oklahoma, and then at Texas. At Oklahoma, I could see them beating the Sooners, but I'm still taking them to win that one. They'll go 10-2, but because that Texas loss, they'll be second in the Big 12.
Fair enough.
Next is the Cowboys.
7.5 just seems really low in my opinion for them. All right, where are we? Oklahoma State, the 12th ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. They will start the season with 3 straight home games in the non-conference against Central Michigan, Arizona State, and Arkansas Pine Bluff. But then they start conference play on the road at number 10 Baylor. Then they play Texas Tech at home. Then they go on the road to TCU, and then they get Texas. Then they play the Kansas State, and Kansas back-to-back, both on the road. Iowa State at home, Oklahoma State on the road, and West Virginia to end the season. Wow, Bedlam isn't the final game.
No, not this year.
That's interesting. They're not doing Bedlam during rivalry week. Maybe there's just so many other rivalries that they want theirs to be in the spotlight.
That's
They
right.
want theirs to be in the spotlight at the end instead of everybody watching the Iron Bowl. I don't know. They go 3-0 in the non-conference. Wait, I didn't even say what the win total was. Oklahoma State's win total is at 8.5. They're go 3-0 in the non-conference. They're going to crush all three teams in there. They're going to crush all three teams, including Arizona State. Arizona State's not going to be good this year, I don't think. They lose the Baylor game. That's one loss. I think they lose the Oklahoma game. That's 2 losses. I might just be too high in Oklahoma, but I still think they're a good team. Who they guys their quarterback now?
Dylan Gabriel.
Okay. That's a toss-up game. Again, I'm not the biggest Spencer Sanders person, so Oklahoma's probably lost. Could be a win. Maybe TCU. I think I'll go over. I think I'll go 9-3 for Oklahoma State. I don't see a super tricky schedule. I don't see a for sure loss outside of Baylor. I see maybe Texas and maybe Oklahoma State. Maybe they trip up against TCU, but I don't see a for sure loss outside of Baylor. And even Baylor's not a for sure loss, but I would favor them because it's on the road. So give me the over on Oklahoma State. I think they'll go 9-3.
All right, and then for me, I believe I have them as well at 10-2. I do, yeah. So I have Oklahoma State as a 10-2 team, so I am going over. The only question for Oklahoma State for me is going to be what the defense looks like this year. No Jim Knowles; he's now left for Ohio State. Yeah, that'll be fun for us. But Jim Knowles no longer to DC. I believe they also lost at least a couple defensive players to either the NFL or to Ohio State. I know at least 1 or 2 transferred over. So their defense will look a little different. Spencer Sanders still comes back at quarterback, so I think that'll definitely help. I have their losses at being at Baylor and at Oklahoma. Other than that, I mean, Arizona State, I know you're not high on them, but they still have some talent left. They could lose there. And really, the only other games I could see them losing are Iowa State and West Virginia. And maybe Texas. Let's not forget them. But those are really the only games I could see the Cowboys tripping up in. But as of right now, I only have them losing against Baylor and Oklahoma. I think they'll have a solid season again, like they always do, and they'll go 10-2.
Yeah, the buzz on campus about the ASU football team is not very strong.
Yeah.
Not very strong this year. The buzz on the buzz. I don't think Herm makes it through the season. Anyway, who do you got next?
The Oklahoma Sooners.
Figured as much. All right, we've got the 9th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. They start the year against UTEP and Kent State, and then they go on the road to play Nebraska. They take Kansas State at home before going on the road to TCU, and then getting Texas and Kansas. Kansas will be at home. Texas, I believe, will still be the neutral site, as it always is.
Still the Cotton
Bowl. The Cotton Bowl. Then you've got Iowa State at home. You've got number 10 ranked Baylor on the road.
Iowa State on the road, Baylor at home.
Then you've got West Virginia on the road, Oklahoma State at home, and Texas Tech on the road. The Oklahoma Sooners have a win total of 9.5.
Little suspects.
I'll take under just because I don't think they get to 10 wins. I think they're a good team. I think they'll probably get about 9 wins, but don't give me 10. I don't think they get 10. I think they can trip up at TCU, West Virginia. They do have the nice thing is they do have all the teams that they'd want to have at home. They do have at home. That is definitely very favorable. The Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Texas. Well, Texas is a neutral site, but Baylor, Oklahoma State, you do have at home. But Texas Tech and West Virginia could be tricky. Even Nebraska could trip you up. Nebraska almost beat Oklahoma.
In Norman
last year. So I don't know where the losses are, but I think there's more than two losses coming. So give me the under.
For me, I have over as well on the Oklahoma Sooners or over. I'm sorry. I have under as well. I'm also at 9-3. I'm right there with good old Serbenski. Oklahoma's team, we just saw. I mean, Lincoln Riley. The departure of Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma has absolutely decimated their program, and it is blatantly obvious. From losing Caleb Williams to losing Mario Williams to losing like a million coaches to losing defensive players. I mean, everybody and train recruits as well. Malachi Nelson, he was committed to Oklahoma, and with Riley moving to USC, he went with him to USC. I mean, it's absurd the amount of movement that we have seen from Oklahoma going to USC or just people leaving Oklahoma in general. So, this program has having a lot of turmoil. Of course, now Brent Venables, new head coach, but it's going to take, I think, at least a year or two for this team to um, get back to consistently competing. But I still have 9-3. Their losses, I do have them losing against Texas. You can see the score there. It's going to be a shootout. I mean, the game was already called the Red River Shootout, so it's so fitting for that game. And it's always fun to watch. But I have them just barely losing to Texas. And then I have them having close losses to both Iowa State and West Virginia. They're both road games. Um, both teams have seen better days, but Iowa State is a sneaky team. No Brees Hall and no Brock Purdy for Iowa State. But I believe they still have their tight end, I think. No, I think he might be gone, their Iowa State tight end. Either way, I think Iowa State can pull the win. And then West Virginia, like I said, JT Daniels, the head coach, quarterback. JT Daniels, the quarterback. I think they'll pull that one off. So I have 9-3 as well for Oklahoma. I think three
Okay, as much.
losses is probably is very likely for them.
What do you got next?
Up next is the Iowa State Cyclones.
Okay, I don't know much about this team this year, but you have the Iowa State Cyclones schedule here. We've got Southeast Missouri State to open up the season, and then they travel to Iowa as per usual. Then you've got Ohio to round out the non-con, and then you start the season at home against number 10 ranked Baylor. Then you go on the road to the Kansas Jayhawks and play Kansas State the next week at home. Then they play on the road at Texas, and then they get their bye week before taking on Oklahoma and West Virginia at home. Going on the road to Stillwater after that to play the 12th ranked Cowboys. And then you've got the Texas Tech Red Raiders and on the road at TCU to round out the season. Iowa State's win total is listed at the top betting around 6.5, which would mean 6 wins to go under, 7 wins to go over. I'm gonna let you start, Mitch, because I gotta look the schedule over. I don't know too much about Iowa State. So
All right. Well, because I already have all this stuff out, I believe I have Iowa State going 7-5. If let me double check that because let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I have Iowa State at 7-5. This is a Iowa State team that is decent. As I said earlier when I was going over their game when I have them beating Oklahoma. The Cyclones have lost, of course, now Brock Purdy and Brees Hall, which is two huge losses going to the NFL. Those are two big players for Iowa State, and I believe they had a tight end. I don't know if he's there or not, but he might be gone too. But Iowa State still should have a decent year. I mean, their losses, I have them as Iowa on the road, of course. That'll be a very fun game, but I have the Hawkeyes edging them out there. And then the other losses, I believe, I have as Baylor, Texas, and then I also have them losing to Oklahoma State, and then I have them losing at TCU. Um, so I think Iowa State is kind of like a wild card. I mean, they can go all over the place. They can go maybe even as far as like 9-3, or they could go as low as like 6-6, 5-7. Like I have no idea. There's a wide range of possibilities. So I'm going right in the middle. I'm going 7-5. Seems likely. So I'll go over for them. Because they got a decent team, but they don't really have that much else. They'll be right in the middle of the Big 12. 7-5. I have for them.
That's probably about what I would do too. I think the only for sure losses that I see on here are probably Iowa. I don't think they beat Iowa. They struggle to beat Iowa at home, much less on the road. They've just always struggled with Iowa. It's just one of their struggle teams. So I think they lose to Iowa. I think they lose to Baylor. I probably have them losing to both Texas and Oklahoma State. And the real deciding factor is honestly going to be Oklahoma and at TCU. Can they win at least one of those games? Or do they lose both of them? They lose both of them, they go under. They win one of them, they go over. I think I would take them in one of those two games. I think they beat Texas Tech and West Virginia, and I think they beat both the Kansases. So it really just comes down to will they beat both Oklahoma and TCU, in my opinion. I think they eke out one of those wins and go 7-5. So I'll go over on them.
All right. Serbensky is going right with me. Next up, I have as West Virginia.
The West Virginia Mountaineers. We have a strong, fun start to the season. One of the top week 1 games, in my opinion, will be West Virginia at number 17 Pitt. And then you got an easier schedule after that. So Kansas at home, Towson at home. Then you go on the road to play with Virginia Tech in a rivalry. I think it's a rivalry game, right?
Oh yeah, it is.
And then you've got on the road against Texas. Then you welcome number 10 Baylor to home. Then you got at Texas Tech, at home versus TCU. Then you got at the Cyclones, Oklahoma, Kansas State, and at Oklahoma State to round out the season. Their win total for West Virginia is at 5.5. So you need 6 games to go over, 5 games to go under. What do you think, Mitch? Are the Mountaineers going bowling this year?
Absolutely. I think I have them at 7-5. If I were to look at it, their losses are going to be Pitt. For me, I have them as being Pitt, Texas, Baylor, Iowa State. Yep. Okay, 7-5. So Pitt, Texas, Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. I have as their losses. I think there'll be some higher scoring games, considering that JT Daniels leads the helm at QB. Um, I think they'll end up just barely getting the win at Blacksburg, but that's gonna be a really good game. Watch that game in Week 4. That should be a lot of fun. Big rivalry. Blacksburg is always a loud environment, and considering that it's West Virginia as well, it'll be a really fun game to see. But for West Virginia, solid overall team, not bad. But I'd say average is a good way of playing it. So I think for West Virginia, they'll be a solid 7-5.
For me, it's very close. It's very close between just barely missing bowling and going bowling. For me, the 3 deciding games are going to be Oklahoma, which seems like it's one of everybody's deciding games at this point. It's going to be Oklahoma, and then in Blacksburg, and against at Texas Tech. Because Texas Tech can be sneaky at home. I think they get the Texas Tech one. I think they get the Virginia. It's hard though because out of those 3, you can only lose one. Because I have the same thing as you. I have Pitt as a loss. I have Texas and Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, all as losses. So you got to win one of those 3. Do I take them to do it? I think I take them for sure to beat Virginia Tech, and I think they can upset Oklahoma. I think I'll go with you and go just over bowling. But it's either going to be, I think it's either going to be a 6-6 or a 5-17. I don't think they beat all 3 of those teams because one of those 2 road games I feel will trip them up. But I think they're definitely a good team, and I think the reason I'm pushing them just barely over is because I think JT Daniels is a pretty good quarterback. So I think I'll push them just over. I'm not super confident in that one, but just because they've got some tough road games. But I think I'll go over.
All right, so Srebensky takes 6-6 for West Virginia. Next up, I have the Kansas State Wildcats.
Kansas State Wildcats. All right. We have the Kansas State Wildcats. They will start against South Dakota, who put up a huge fight against Kansas last year. You've got South Dakota, Missouri, and Tulane to round up the non-conference. And then you've got at Oklahoma, Texas Tech, at Iowa State, and at TCU before playing Oklahoma State and Texas both at home, and then going on the road to Baylor and West Virginia before finishing the season at home against Kansas. That is actually a pretty decently tough schedule. You have Kansas State win total at 6.5. You would need them to get 7 wins. Do they get 7 wins?
No, I don't have them gain.
No.
I don't have them gain 7 wins as far as I know. I don't have the scores actually for this one. I don't think. Yeah, I didn't actually put the scores in, but I do have them losing 7. They'll be going 5-7 on here. I have them just under a bowl game. Their quarterback now is Adrian Martinez, transferring over from Nebraska, but
on the best 3-9 team of all time.
yeah. But I have their losses as Missouri. Well, I'll go with their wins because I have more wins. I have more losses than I do wins. I have them being South Dakota, Tulane, Texas Tech, and then they win at TCU and Kansas. But I have the rest all as losses. I could see them possibly getting a win against Missouri at home.
That doesn't push them over.
But that still would not push them over. But it would get them to a bowl game. But no, that still would not push them over the 6.5 mark. But I could maybe see them beating Missouri. I'd just take Missouri in that game because I know they have that big time receiver recruit, Luther Bolden, I believe is what his name is. So that'll be. I think that's going to be a problem for Kansas State to try and shut down. But I have 7-5 for Kansas State. They'll be okay this year, but I think they'll come up. That Missouri game is going to determine whether they get a bowl game or not this year.
I think I have the same thing. I think I think I have them 1, 2, 3. I think I have them losing 6 games in a row. I think I have them losing from Iowa State, at TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas, Baylor, and West Virginia. I think just that stretch alone throws them under. Just that stretch alone would throw them under. Much less you also have Oklahoma on the road, and Missouri is a tough one. So, yeah. I'm going solidly under on this team. I don't really. Usually I like Kansas State, but they got a lot of the teams that they want. They want to be on the road. They got a lot of hard teams at home. They don't got like Texas Tech is nice to have at home. You would like to have Iowa State and TCU at home. You would like to have West Virginia at home. When you're a middle of the pack team, you want the teams that you're going to lose to on the road. Because if you're going to lose to them, you might as well save the home slots for a team that you have a chance of beating. But they got like a lot of the teams that would be toss-up games on the road, which is always a death sentence for the middle of the pack teams. So, yeah, give me the Kansas State under just because their schedule is not super favorable to them. And who do we got next?
TCU.
All right, we've got the TCU Horned Frog. We start the season at Colorado, and then we go
Tarleton State, yeah.
Tarleton State. And you go on the road in the, Skillet?
Iron Skillet. Battle of the Iron Skillet.
The Battle of the Iron Skillet against SMU. Then you've got Oklahoma at home, Kansas on the road, Oklahoma State and Kansas State both at home. Then you've got West Virginia on the road, Texas Tech at home, Texas and Baylor on the road, and finish out with Iowa State at home. TCU's win total is at 6.5. 7 games to go over, 6 games to go under. Do we go over or under? Considering you probably have them in record ranking, I would assume you're picking them to go under.
Yes, I have them as under. I have 5-7 for TCU, just like I did for Kansas State. Interesting bye week, having that week 3 of the season and not later. There's a lot of games in a row. That's gonna tire them out, I would think. But I'm pretty sure that for this team as well, I have 5-7. If I were to look, yeah, I do. But I have them. I think even at Colorado, I could see them having maybe an issue being at the first game of the year. And I mean, yeah, Colorado's not good, but it's still a road game, so I could see that being kind of troublesome on a Friday night. At SMU, I don't
Oh, I'm
know.
so excited for that one because they took their head coach.
Yeah, I think SMU is gonna knock off TCU.
They're gonna come into that game angry.
Oh yeah. But the games I do have them winning is Colorado, Tarleton State, Kansas, Texas Tech, and then Iowa State. That's a weird one at the end, but I mean, like I said, Iowa State's kind of all over the place. The Big 12 is kind of weird, so I could see TCU being Iowa State. I think it's more likely they lose that game, but TCU, decent team. They lost their big time running back though. Zach Evans transferred to Ole Miss, so that's a huge loss for them. They'll have a decent year, but 5-7 is likely for them.
Yeah, I mean Texas, Baylor, and West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. That's 4 losses right there. SMU and Oklahoma, that's another 2 losses. Boom, you're already at 6-6. You're already under the rating. So yeah, give me the under on this one pretty solidly. All right, who we got next? We've only got a couple more teams.
Yep, we have only two left, I believe.
So
First,
let me guess. Do you have Texas Tech next?
yes,
Wow, shocker!
shocker there.
Shocker, you have Kansas at the bottom. All right, we've got the Texas Tech Red Raiders. You've got the John Morant School. I mean Murray State. You've got number 24 Houston, and then you've got at NC State.
13th ranked NC State. Yeah, their non-conference is brutal.
Their non-conference is terrifying, and then you start conference play versus Texas, at Kansas State, at Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and Baylor, at TCU, before you finally get a week off against Kansas, and then you get to play at Iowa State and Oklahoma. Ouch! Their win total is 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, they're going under. Oh, okay. Kansas is a win and Murray State's a win. I mean, other than that, I think they can put up a fight against West Virginia. They can put up a fight against Houston. Maybe. I think they get 3 to 4 wins. I don't see them getting up to 5 wins though, so I think I'm gonna go under. I don't think they're gonna bottom out so bad that they're at only 2 wins, but they very easily could. Not because they're a bad team, but just because their schedule is so unfavorable. Like they have a brutal non-conference, and then like it's the same thing. A lot of the teams from the hard teams, you have a lot of the teams that you would have a chance to beat, like Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State. They're all on the road. So it's just a rough schedule for the Red Raiders. So I think probably 3 to 4 wins, which is definitely under that 5.5. So give me under.
Yeah, I actually do have Texas Tech as bottoming out. I have them at 2-10. Their only wins are Kansas and Murray State. This team, I mean, they have a brand new head coach. They have, I believe it's like Baylor's linebacker coach or something like that as a new head guy there. Um, but I mean, having 2 games in your non-conference against 2 ranked teams, even if it is Houston, but 2 ranked teams in your non-conference is brutal, and they're not winning either one of those games. I think Houston's easily going to beat them, and NC State will blow them off the face of the earth. Texas is gonna light them up in terms of points. Kansas State, not on the road. They're not beating Oklahoma State. West Virginia should win. Baylor's not losing that game. Uh, they might have a chance against TCU, but once again, like you said, it's a road game. I think they should beat Kansas, and then at Iowa State, I don't think so. And Oklahoma, I mean, it's a home game, so maybe, but likely not. So I don't. Their team isn't like terrible, but it's not great. And with that brutal of a schedule, having to deal with that many good teams on the road, I just don't see a good path for them. So I do have them bottoming out at 2-10.
Sorry, Texas Tech. And we go to our final team of the Big 12 in the elite Kansas Jayhawks.
Oh
You
yeah.
have their non-conference starts off with Tennessee Tech before going on the road to West Virginia and Houston. But then they welcome Duke to town. They welcome Iowa State to town and TCU. They go on the road to Oklahoma and Baylor, and then they get home against Oklahoma State. At Texas, they get a bona fide win at home against Texas, and then they play on the road at Kansas State. Win total is 2.5.
2.5. Oh.
I think they go. I really wanted to go with the over. I really wanted to go over, but I can't. I can't give them more than 2 wins. I think they get 2 wins though. I think they beat Tennessee Tech, and I think they beat Duke solely because Duke's at home. Their only chance is they trip up somebody who's not paying attention, like Iowa State or TCU, or they trip up like Texas. But I'm sorry, Kansas, it's not your year again. I still remember there was a video that I watched that said Kansas was going to go 10-2 this year. Ever since then, I think I stopped watching that channel because as soon as I saw a video as why Kansas is a sleeper team this year, I'm like, okay, hang on a moment. Hang on a minute. But yeah, I think they get 2 wins. Maybe. They might lose to Duke still. Heck, they might lose to Tennessee Tech, but I like Kansas. So they almost lost to South Dakota. So give me the under at 2.
Yeah, so I have pretty much the same thing as you, except I have them losing to Duke. So they're going to be 1-11. That's why I have their record as. It's Kansas. We know this team don't give a flying rip about football. They only care about basketball. As we kind of.
They just won the national championship, so congratulations.
Yes, congratulations to the Kansas Jayhawks on that national championship for basketball, knocking off the Tar Heels. Good game.
Thank you for saving us from having to watch North Carolina fans be annoying for another year. As a Syracuse fan, deep down, I really appreciate that.
You see, Sylvester's the one that doesn't like North Carolina. Me, I don't care. I just hate Duke. I don't care about the Tar Heels. I just can't stand the Blue Devils.
I can't stand either of them.
Yeah.
So when the last game before COVID shut down was the ACC tournament when Syracuse blew the lids off of Cole Anthony's North Carolina team. Oh, that made me so happy. Or any of the buzzer beaters against Duke. Do you remember, side comment at the end of this, do you remember the Syracuse-Duke game where they won at Duke and Syracuse hit a 3/4 court halftime buzzer beater?
Yeah, I do.
Elijah Hughes from 3/4 court, or my favorite, being at youth group, and it was Matt Politi, told me Duke is going to crush Syracuse tonight. And you know what happened? Why am I blanking out on his name now? Tyus Battle. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. I've seen this call so many times.
Tyus Jones?
I think it's Tyus Battle. It's something Battle. I'm pretty sure it's Tyus Battle. Yep, Tyus Battle. Tyus Battle buzzer beater. Yep, okay. Tyus Battle. No, not Tyus Jones. Tyus Battle, where he dribbled up and in front of I think there was the Luke Kennard, Jason Tatum led Duke team. In front of all 3 of them, he throws it up from the 3, and it banks off the backboard. And I only remember that game because I was watching it with Politi, and I was freaking out. And I will never forget the Dick Vitale call. Are you serious? Are you serious? Dick Vitale is like probably him and Gus Johnson are like the 2 best sports commentators ever.
And good news on Dickie V. He has beat cancer. He is back for this year. Let's go. Congratulations, Dickie V.
I'm so excited for some more Dick Vitale. Oh my gosh, there's so many historic calls. But just watch any of the Syracuse Duke games. They're always a blast, except for when they're not. They're either a really close, fun game that Syracuse ekes out and wins, or Syracuse gets absolutely destroyed. It's one of those two. But anyway, that's the Big 12 win totals for everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. We hope you all have a great rest of your day, and see you later. Week 0 this week. Peace.
Adios.